All right, Bearcat Hoop Bigger Picture Series. If you were here a couple weeks ago, we highlighted senior Kenny Wright Jr. and some of his off the floor adventures in creativity and entrepreneurship. And I think we got the poster child for the series with us today. Another senior, but what do we call you now, Jay Watts? A grad senior?
Grandpa.
Yes, Grandpa Watts is pretty. Well, Jonathan Watts is with us. And if you were away like August, I believe the article came out online from woobearcats.com, and I'll link it here when we post this to all our platforms for Bearcat Hoop. But Jonathan Watts has just been so busy in all of his exploration of the next steps in life, and I feel like you old soul's the wrong word, focused soul. For me, you have been since we recruited you. Like you sat down in the igloo meeting that we do, and you told us, well, this is where I'm going to be in a year, and I'm going to be here in 4 years. And you're damn near, you're a little different path, but you're definitely focused and going. So welcome, sir. How does today, Friday, find you?
Doing well. Happy to be here and hopefully spread a positive message.
Yeah, man. And I've been able to witness you wearing so many hats, as a player for us, obviously, as a student for us. But throughout your injuries and your resiliency and as a quasi coach on the staff for a season, then back to play, you just do so many things and you handle them all with such grace and professionalism. What is it? Where do we find you today? I know it's a day off from MBA, but if you read the article, Jay Watts is a grad student getting his MBA. He's going to be a huge part of our success on the floor this year in his last year of playing for us. You've got a podcast. Mm-hmm. You're an author. Well, to be published, but you got a newsletter coming out all the time. You're a coach. You're a trainer. How does today find you, man?
Yeah, it's a long process, but like I think if you would have told me I'd be doing what I'm doing now 4 years ago, I would think you're out of my mind, out of your mind. I was never someone who enjoyed writing, who enjoyed reading when I came into college.
Yeah.
I was always someone that loved doing the work. I came in, loved getting in the gym, loved getting shots up. But I think the means through which I do that now is a little bit different. It's not just about basketball. It's not just about sports. It's also about my personal development and how I can impact people with my actions and what I'm doing. And I think a lot of things changed when COVID hit.
And that was at the year. It was going to be your junior year, right? End of your sophomore year.
End of sophomore year. And everyone got sent home, and I had a lot of time on my hands. And I was like, what am I going to do with myself? I don't want to just stay inside all day, be on my phone. I couldn't hang out with a lot of people. And I felt like it was an opportunity, as bad as the times were, I felt like it was an opportunity for me to grow and explore my own development. Like, where could I be better? Where did I want to go? What did I want to do with my life? What was my ultimate purpose? And I fell in love with just learning in general. At that point, it was about athletic performance and development, but I fell in love with the reading, and that ultimately led me down to wanting to write a book. I've experienced a lot of things. I've read a lot, and I want to spread a message of, hey, life is difficult, but there's a lot of things that you can do to help you along your journey. And hopefully, I can spread that through stories, through ideas, through some thoughts, through some experiences that I've had. And that's how I got to writing a book, starting a podcast, starting my own brand, and kind of where I'm at today.
Speaking of brand, he's rocking the Chasing Greatness shirt right now. Write your own story, and I got a hell of a hoodie in that deal as well. You kind of touched on this, right? The freshman year, Jay Watts was a focused worker, right, and was getting reps on the floor in the weight room and training. Do you feel like you're getting reps now, like for your brain, for your soul, almost kind of?
Definitely. I think every day it's the concept of getting 1% better. James Clear talks about in his book Atomic Habits, but every day is it's an opportunity to get better. We're obviously, a lot of times we're after perfection, but I think that's the wrong way. We're after progress. We want to grow every day. So for me, it's growing in all aspects. I have different roles as a partner, as a family member, as a student, as a coach, as a leader, and I try to grow in all those every day. Sometimes that's not attainable because that's a lot.
Yeah.
But for me, the big one is as a student, intellectually, mentally. How far can I go? But each and every day, it's just trying to get better in some of those roles, and then at the end of the day, I can reflect, hey, what did I do well? What didn't I do well? And it's constantly just getting those reps and moving forward and making progress.
When you're choosing those avenues of 1% exploration, do you try to find something that hits all the hats you wear, or is it like, I know this book, this reading, this speaker, this is more specific? It's okay today that this is specifically for Coach Watts, or this is specifically for Jay Watts, the partner?
Yeah. I think it all comes back to kind of what my current goals are. Like right now, a lot of what I'm doing is just geared toward my book and my brand. So a lot of what I'm doing is geared towards that, but I reflect a lot. So I think it's good to constantly put yourself up for reflection and up for review.
Yeah.
And when I do that, I can kind of look at, like, this past week, where did I spend a lot of time? Have I talked to my parents? Have I talked to my sister? Have I talked with my grandma? To make sure that even though I'm working on these roles, I still got to make sure I'm a great family member, a great partner. So I think I don't have a plan like each and every day, like, hey, this is, well, I kind of do have a plan, kind of what I want to do. But every week I go back and see, okay, I've improved here, but what areas are lacking a little bit? And sometimes I'm fine with that because I know I'm working on this right now. This is going to require a little bit more effort.
Yeah.
So I got to take a little bit of a sacrifice here. But it's constantly just reflecting to understand what areas am I working on right now? Am I okay with the areas that I may be slacking in? And if not, implementing ways to grow in those areas.
Does that grade, does that start with just quantity of time allotted to? Or I like how you say self-reflection.
Yeah.
Are other voices? I know mom's probably listening. Shout out, hello, hi Sherry. Morgan, like who's helping you with that evaluation of yourself? On hoops, it's easy for us. Well, you went 6 for 15.
Yes.
You could have been 8 for 15.
Yes.
We lost, we won. What about in this journey as a person?
Yeah, so I actually meet with JB and Coach Chris every couple weeks. We call it peak performance partner meetings, where we meet. We kind of talk like, hey, what's going on? What are things that have gone well? What are things that haven't gone well? What are your current goals right now? And it's a way to keep us accountable. But one of the questions we ask is like, hey, what role do you want to improve on? And that helps us reflect on what area in our life we think we may be holding ourselves short a little bit.
Yeah.
So a lot of it is with other people like that. I do the same thing with Morgan, my girlfriend right now, but I also do it with myself. Every Saturday in the morning, I sit down and I spend 15 and 30 minutes in silence with a journal and I just write those same questions.
Yeah.
What's gone well? What hasn't gone well? And where do I want to improve?
Right.
And it's just this constant review of myself each and every week. And I think to grow is to reflect.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I like to say. So if you aren't reflecting, you aren't seeing where you're coming up short. So I love to reflect, and that's those pathways with other people like JB, Chris, and my partner, but also by myself as well.
That's awesome. What is the avenues you're on? The author, the book. You can for sure pub a little bit, talk a little bit about it. But which one of those have you found in the last month or two? Is it the podcasting reflection? Is it the author reflection? Like, which one of those is harder to really dive into improvement? Is podcasting, as a podcaster myself, is it just listens? Well, here's my listens, or here's my engagement. Yeah. In the book, it's like, well, I got X amount of pages done, or I got this feedback. Talk about those two. You can and absolutely point people to those.
Yeah, I think it's tough because but the podcast isn't super big. I don't necessarily focus on or measure by how many listens I get or how many viewers. I think I want to get to that point. But a lot of it is just value at this point, and especially with the podcast, I'm not worried about quantity or volume right now. Like everything I put out, I want to be of value.
Yeah.
And ultimately, that's with the book as well. But I want to be able to give something or some value or some information that people can apply and take, and it can help them within their life. I think I can put out a lot of stuff, but is it going to help them?
Yeah.
So when I reflect and look on that, like, am I putting out stuff that I think is bringing them value? And then with the book's tough because you don't really get feedback because there's no feedback from the audience. Just you right now. I've given chapters to you. I've given chapters to other people.
Yeah.
And I think that's been valuable because you see through the lens of your potential reader. What they think works well, what doesn't work well. But I'm my biggest critic with my writing, and I think anyone can write a book. Not many people can write a good book.
Gotcha.
And I think my first draft I wrote, I was like, this is pretty damn good. When I finished it, that's what I thought it was.
Yeah.
I went back and read. I was like, this is not it. Like, I had the information, I had the stories, I had the idea. It just didn't flow. It didn't work.
Yeah.
Or the information didn't get conveyed in a way that I wanted it to, and how readers could just pick it up easily. So it in that aspect, it's just going back, reflecting, editing. You've never written a book, but for people who have, it's a long process.
Like that.
It can take a year, it can take 3 years, it can take 6 years, and depending how good of quality you want it to be, but it is a long process.
Where does the hooper take over? Is it scheduled into your day, like on my workouts or my shot or my lifting? Where does the current competitive athlete, where do they breathe in your day to day?
Yeah, well, I think it just comes back to my morning. I plan everything, or I try to plan everything. I think it's good to plan your day, but it can be bad at times because sometimes if you have these strict blocks that like, hey, from 11 to 1, I'm going to be working on this.
Yeah.
At 3, I'm getting in the gym, and then that doesn't happen. It can lead to some anxiety.
Yes. I missed that appointment, like with myself. I got you.
But for me, I don't have like an exact time or every day, but I find an hour. In the morning, I look at my day, what I have, and then the free time I have. And then within that, every day I have to write, I have to move, and I have to read. Those are my three things.
Yeah.
Because those help me learn, those help me stay physically active, and they help me stay mentally well. So those are only 3 or 4 hours that I really need to do those things, and then any extra time I can implement whatever I want. So there's not exact times, but just looking at my schedule, what time I have, and then finding times in those days to get that lift in, to get shots up, but also to pursue those other endeavors as well.
The hats you're wearing, is one either the athlete, the student, the son, the author, is one more of a, what's the word I'm looking for? Escape's probably not right. But is one like a soothing mechanism more than the other, or do they all kind of interchange in those roles? Like one day the writing really was a great release for you, and then the next 2 weeks maybe it was coaching in the summer with that team you had.
Yeah, I'd say it's a little bit of everything, a balance.
Okay.
I think everything in life, there's a balance between good and bad. Like water is good for you, but it can kill you if you drink too much.
Right.
So with I love writing, but there are days where it's just like, you get to the keyboard or to the computer and you can't think of anything, nothing's coming to your mind. So you get away from that and you just go read, or you go get on the court. So it's a balance between everything. And not a balance in the standpoint that I do everything the same amount every day.
Yeah, right.
But a balance of what just feels right.
Gotcha.
I don't force things. Like for example, when I started writing this book, my goal was to finish in 6 months. Little did I know that was not possible at all.
Yeah.
It took me 6 months just to do the research. But because I had that deadline, I was like, I'm gonna write 6 hours a day for these next 6 months. I'm gonna finish it.
You were forcing it on yourself.
I was forcing it. I was like, and then I wasn't enjoying the process.
Yeah.
So I read a book called I think it was Effortless by George McCown, and he says set upper and lower bounds. So every day I have to write for at least an hour.
Okay.
But I can't write no more than 4 hours a day. So make sure that I'm making progress every day.
Yeah.
But I'm not making the process so unbearable that I don't want to come back.
Great. That's a great one. I love that. Unbearable process. That's awesome.
Yes.
That's really cool. What was it like shifting gears as a competitive, high quality college basketball player? What was your coaching experience like? You had a travel team, you were part of the staff. Talk us through it.
Different for sure. A lot different. I think going from player to coach, it's I don't know if the mindset changes, but the perspective is a lot different. I think it's not something. Just I enjoy playing the game more than coaching more.
Yeah.
At least on the basketball side, and it changes your view on how you see things a lot. Instead of just making adjustments for yourself, you're making adjustments for the entire team. You see certain matchups that work well, and as a player, you're doing that as well, but not as much as a coach.
Yeah.
You're looking for every little advantage that you can get. And it forced me to see the game in a new way, which I think will add some value to me as a player going forward. But it was almost stressful as well, because I found myself, this was the first year I've ever really coached, I would say competitive basketball. I've coached rec teams in the past, a long time ago. But I found myself times worrying about I gotta get this guy in, I need to sub, I need to make sure.
Yeah.
Because in AAU everyone pays you, so you have a duty to play everyone. It's not like high school where you got to play your top 8 guys. We had 8 guys, and 2 of them you're not bringing much value to us, but I got to get you on the court. So it was finding ways to get them on the court and also making sure that we were winning ball games.
And manage that, yes. You got to provide the experience, but part of the experience sometimes is winning.
Exactly. So it was a difficult process, but it provided perspective, and I think I definitely got more comfortable as the season went on. We played in 4, 5, 6 tournaments. But it gave me a whole new perspective around the game of basketball.
Do all of these combine into a vision of you 5, 10, 15 years from now? Do they combine into one of them will be the dominant form of your experience? The coach, the author, the brand. What do you see today?
I think definitely I would love the brand to get big. I think the big thing is I do want to be an author. Eventually, I want to publish 5, 6, 7 books. That's my end goal.
Yeah.
but that's not something that necessarily needs to be the primary thing. I think I can be an author while pursuing other means, whether it is a coach, whether it is the brand, whether it is something within business. And I think that's something that I kind of just play by ear.
Yeah.
I was a big advocate early on in my life for like long-term planning, 5-year, 10-year plans. But I think life changes so fast now, especially with technology, that you don't know who you'll even be in 5 to 10 years. So I think it's not foolish, but at least from my perspective, not the best thing to do is to plan for 5 to 10 years now. Why not just plan for the year and make changes as they come? So for me, I don't necessarily have the roles I'm wearing as an author, the brand as a coach. I don't know necessarily what will be the driving or the leading force in my career. I hope to do all of them. And I think I will do all of them, but I don't know which one will ultimately take over.
Gotcha. JWatts, Bigger Picture Series. Catch him in his final year in the Cardinal and Gold, but obviously not his final year in doing all these big and great things. Bearcat Hoop, Bigger Picture.